underway. So the time to prepare is now. And in order to help you prepare, Mayor Messam has put together a team of individuals that, is going to make this so easy for you. So Mayor Messam is joined today by meteorologist and Miami native Vivian Gonzalez. He's also joined by Robert Moyeda, who is a warning and coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Center. And we have our own Miramar Fire Chief, Robert Palmer. Now, our guest, along with Mayor Messam, is going to be taking your questions. So please go ahead and put them in the comment section. And remember, the panelists are people who you know and love. Again, our Vivian Gonzalez from WSBN 7, our Robert Moyeda, warning and coordination meteorologist from the National Weather Center, and our own fire chief. So this is a panel of individuals that you're going to be able to ask your questions to as we go along. So right now, I'm going to turn over to our Mayor Messam to start his introductions. Mayor Messam, go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sean. And good evening, everyone. And welcome back to Conversations with Mayor Messam. And tonight's topic is hurricane preparedness. This year will bring definitely a unique perspective to our routines in preparing for these very severe weather events. So thanks again for joining us. 2020 is shaping up to be a very unique year. COVID cases are on the rise, and the 2020 hurricane season is predicted to be an above average year for tropical activity. And you'll hear a little bit about that a little bit later. Handling the COVID-19 outbreak on top of our hurricane activation will most likely be one of the most unique challenges our emergency management division will face this year. COVID-19 has really sucked up a lot of the air in terms of our attention and our concern in terms of a public safety issue. But here in South Florida, we all know very well how dangerous our hurricanes can be, and COVID-19 adds an additional layer on top of what we would need to do to be prepared. We all have to be properly prepared to ensure our safety and well-being, and it's equally important to have the necessary supplies on hand. Certain items are already in high demand due to COVID, so we want to make sure we give ourselves enough time to prepare to be prepared in the event a hurricane should come our way. Now is the time to take advantage of curbside pickup and delivery options as you stock up. Consider mail order fulfilling of your prescriptions, etc. We are fortunate enough to have 3 experts with us today, and they'll go into everything you need to know to make sure you are aware of how hurricane season's shaping up and how we can get hurricane ready. Mr. Moyeda, can you share with us the trends and the predictions for this year's hurricane season? Also, if you have any thoughts on preparedness during this COVID-19 environment.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening to all the viewers out there in the City of Miramar. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be a part of this panel and part of this important conversation regarding hurricane preparedness now that we're definitely well into hurricane season. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so I can show you, let's see if we can do it here, okay? So I can show you basically what the outlook. Okay, one here. Okay, it should be coming up here momentarily. Okay, you should be seeing a screen here that momentarily that shows a big map with a bunch of lines across it. That's our hurricane history here in South Florida. So I don't show this map I don't show it necessarily to scare anyone, but it should catch our attention. I mean, and those of us that have lived here in South Florida, really even for the last few years, we know that we're an area that's prone to getting hurricanes. So no matter what the seasonal outlook is indicating, it's very important that we stay prepared because we can get hit by hurricanes really any year. Speaking of that outlook, we are anticipating an above normal season as far as number of storms is concerned. What you see here, those are the numbers as far as named storms, number of hurricanes, number of major hurricanes that the NOAA outlook from late May is indicating for the season. That's basically all the way through the end of the season, which is at the end of November. So, the averages are 12 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. So as you see, the numbers on the screen for this season are well above those averages. So some of the things that we look for, we'll go straight to that one here. Oh, sorry about that. I didn't have that slide. But basically, we're looking at things like warm waters, strong tropical waves coming off the coast of Africa, especially as we get towards the peak of the season in August and September. Also, there's a possibility that we could be entering a La Nina pattern, especially towards the latter part of hurricane season. And that basically helps to make conditions more conducive in the tropics and the Atlantic Ocean for hurricanes and tropical storms to form. So again, it's just something we're going to have to be mindful of, especially as we get later, as we get towards the peak of the hurricane season, which is August, September, and October. But the one thing to remember here when I talk about the outlook is that we really have no skill at this point in time to indicate whether we're going to have a storm affecting South Florida or what are the chances of a storm affecting South Florida later in the season. The weather systems that basically dictate whether those storms are going to form and where they're going to move later in the season, they're not, we can't detect them yet. So there's no way that we can really forecast it with any level of skill. So the bottom line here is we need to be ready, regardless of what that outlook indicates. As my first slide showed, we're in a hurricane-prone region as it is. So we just need to continue to be ready. I do want to point out one thing. Given the circumstances that we're in now with COVID-19, I just want to let everyone know that here at the National Weather Service, we're operating 24/7. Our operations, as far as what we do to provide those forecast warnings and track storms, that's not changing, and we don't expect that to change at all this hurricane season. We are taking the appropriate measures, of course. We're following the proper physical distancing suggestions, or and things like that. So we're doing what we can to stay safe. We're following all the procedures and all the measures. But we are here, and we are here, especially when there's active weather and the threat of a storm. We'll be here to provide that information that people depend on. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. That now we're going to go to Vivian Gonzalez. Now, Vivian has taken us through so many named storms here in the South Florida region. And Ms. Gonzalez, we're going to give you the opportunity right now to just go ahead with your introduction to our viewers today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. City of Miramar, my community. I have family that lives in Miramar. And I've been with Channel 7 for about 15 years now. Now in July marks 15 years at Channel 7. And I'm grateful to be able to do what I love every day here at home, know the ins and outs of the weather patterns around town and through every season. And hurricane season is a critical season. And Channel 7 is your go-to source, your storm station to keep you informed with the very latest. I actually want to share my screen. Here we go. Perfect. All right, and here is your 7 weather team. Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow, we have Brent Cameron, we have Erica Delgado, and Jessica Fernandez. And we speak with one voice along with the National Weather Service and National Hurricane Center, and our main objective is to tell viewers where a system is, how strong it is, or it may be, and where it's going and what impacts may be. And a system will never take us by surprise. You can't prepare for it or even get out of the way. And our responsibility starts when a small disturbance pops up and the National Hurricane Center gives it development chances. And we will keep you, our community, updated as to when it may develop. We'll be monitoring an area of clouds and rain showers that can quickly grow or fall apart just as fast. So if it does manage to hold and when conditions are just right, it can grow into a depression, maybe with winds less than 38 miles per hour, tropical storm with winds over 39 miles per hour, or even a hurricane with winds of 74 miles per hour. But when it does develop, we will broadcast it on the air, online, and through all of our social media platforms with the latest advisories and cone of concern. We will guide you through the entire life of the storm. From the watches and warnings, a watch, hurricane winds expected within that highlighted area, likely in 48 hours, when a warning gets issued with winds, hurricane winds expected in a given area within 36 hours. So from when those watches and warnings get issued. Also, something that the Hurricane Center's been doing for a couple years now is basically classifying a system before it actually develops, just to allow them to issue watches and warnings in advance, to give people a heads up. So from the watches and warnings and what they mean and when to take action, if a system does threaten South Florida, we will remind you to review your plan by checking your supplies, making sure that you have everything you need to survive a storm, and maybe have you thinking of a plan in order to prepare your property in case you have to leave. And if a system does threaten South Florida, we'll also make you aware of the open shelters near you and evacuation orders, along with city officials will work hand in hand as well. So I know Broward County has two plans, and Plan A gets implemented when there's a Category 1 or 2 system threatening, and Plan B gets implemented when there's a Category 3, 4, 5. That means winds over 111 miles per hour. But along with the local weather service of Miami and Robert Moyeda, we will let you know what your specific impacts will be. We work hand in hand again to keep you safe and informed. And Channel 7 has several platforms to keep the community informed with the latest information. And once we lose power during the storm, our broadcast gets aired through our media partners. We have Hits 97.3, 99 Jams, Easy 93.1, and Hot 105. We also have the 7 Weather app, where you have access to the radar, weather alerts, and storm tracking information. The Hurricane Tracker app, where you can get storm advisories, instant updates, and live radar. The cone on your phone, the Tropic Watch hotline. We have the Broward number listed there, 954-776-7751. And finally, I'm here to serve the community. So I want to make sure people feel comfortable to reach out to me in case they have any questions, alongside our team members, Phil Farrow, Brent Cameron, Erica, and Jessica. We're here to make sure that that we keep you at ease. And again, feel free to reach out to us through Facebook, Twitter, or even Instagram if you have any questions. All right, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez. And now we're going to go to Chief Robert Palmer. You know, whenever a hurricane is looming, there are operations that we here in the city of Miramar have to take into consideration. So I'm going to go over right now to Chief Palmer here from the city of Miramar. Chief Palmer, could you go ahead with your introduction?
Great. Thank you very much, Sean. Good evening, everyone. I know that for most of you, COVID has your full attention, and rightfully so. There are a few things to start taking into consideration if you haven't done so already. First thing you want to make sure is that you know your shelters in your area. For us in the city of Miramar here, we have 8 schools that we utilize for shelters. We have Silver Lakes, Dolphin Bay, Coconut Palm, Coral Cove, Silver Shores, and Sunset Lakes Elementary, as well as Renaissance Middle and Everglades High School. If possible, staying with friends and family outside of an evacuation zone is your best option. Monitor local news reports and dial the Broward County Emergency Hotline, which is #311 for specific shelter openings. You should note that your regular shelters may not be open this year due to COVID. If you evacuate to your community shelter, know the latest guidelines from your CDC. Next, we want to make sure you're doing is you're gathering your supplies. Make sure you have enough non-perishable foods, water, cash, batteries, and other vital supplies for every member of your family to last at least 3 days. Most are recommending now 7 days, especially with the COVID. Consider what unique needs your family might have, such as supplies for your pets, your infants. Seniors and your prescription medications. Also, I recommend that you add 2 cloth face coverings per family member. This is something that you want to make sure you have in your kit. And cleaning items like soap, hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, and general cleaning supplies just to disinfect your surfaces. After a hurricane, you might not have any access to any supplies for days or even weeks. Prepare a hurricane kit that is ready to go should you need to evacuate. Also, you want to make sure you're preparing now will ensure that you're well equipped to stay safe, and you will need to quickly grab your kit in case you have to evacuate your community shelter. I recognize that not everyone can afford to respond by stocking up on necessities. For those who can afford it, making essential purchases in advance will help you to avoid the mad dash to the stores if a tropical storm or hurricane threatens our area. As you know, now you're having a hard time getting supplies now. So just imagine once we have actual storm, it's actually coming on us. Finally, make sure you have that emergency plan. Make sure everyone is in your home knows and understands your hurricane plan. Don't forget to inform your family and friends about this hurricane plan so they can check on you after the storm. It's also a good idea to have an out-of-town number. Stay alert. Keep checking your city's website, MiramarFL.gov hurricane, as well as our social media pages for updates on the steps you are taking once a hurricane gets close. We will work to keep you constantly updated on what the city is doing during a hurricane. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you so much, Chief Palmer. Now we're going to take a couple questions to our panelists. And Mayor Messam, I'm going to start with you, sir, because when a hurricane is looming, there are certain responsibilities that city government has that our residents may not know of. Can you talk about the responsibilities and the steps that are taken by our city government when a system is approaching?
That's an excellent question, Sean. The city's first priority is everyone's safety. So public safety is paramount. And when you're talking about a severe weather event like a hurricane, there are so many dangers that can threaten our community. So the first thing that is done is based on the information that is communicated to us from the National Weather Service and from our media partners like Channel 7, will alert us about these approaching storms. Myself, along with the city manager, we declare a state of emergency. That state of emergency triggers a series of events. First, it puts all of our departments on notice. It puts our emergency management team in place. It puts our first responders in place, as well as our key departments that handle our infrastructure like utilities and public works and our various departments. We activate our emergency, we call our EOC, our Emergency Operating Center. The city has invested millions of dollars in the state-of-the-art public safety facility, our police headquarters, which serves as our EOC, where all of our directors and key personnel and city manager, as well as members of the commission, we stay there for the storm to prepare for once the storm passes to ensure that this community is safe once the storm has passed. It also allows us and puts us in position to get valuable reimbursements from FEMA because it's an extensive documentation process on all of our expenditures and all of the activities that take place to keep you as the community safe. So there's a lot of resources available. We encourage you to visit our website at MiramarFL.gov, where you can get valuable tips. All the information that Chief Palmer just talked about is in a nice, easy to read electronic booklet that you and your family can use to prepare. And when you think about preparing for this year's hurricane season, we talked about COVID-19. Right now, or when the COVID-19 first hit, for some reason, there was no toilet paper. Simple things like that. You can go in the store now and get it. So when you go to the store, get that extra case of water, get all the toilet paper you need, and all these vital things like your prescription medicines and food and non-perishable items, and start storing them now because of COVID-19, these retail establishments must maintain social distancing and 6 feet separation. You don't want to be caught in long lines getting things that you can get today.
Thank you so much, Mayor Messam. That is so true, sir, and very good advice to our viewers. And when we talk about hurricane season, sometimes individuals are not sure what time frame they're looking at. So, Ms. Gonzalez, if you would tell our viewers, when we say hurricane season, what period of the year are we talking about?
Okay, so hurricane season's designated start date is June 1st, and it runs all the way through November 30th. but you can get activity even outside of the season. The season already started early, and we already had Arthur, Bertha, Cristobal, and even Dolly. You saw the slide from Robert Molleda with those names checked off the list. So activity does happen out of season. It can happen at any given point in the year, but most of the activity has been basically observed during that time, and that's why it was designated between June and November. But activity starts to ramp up even more now in August, and that's when we start to pay attention to those waves that come off the coast of Africa, because there'll be less dry air, dust around in the Atlantic basin, and those are the ones that are able to organize and have a longer period of time to be able to get stronger due to the fact that they have a lot of water to travel, very warm water. So in August, it starts to get interesting, busier, and then the peak approaches in September.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Molleda, we're going to go to you for the next question, sir. Now, whenever a system is approaching, we hear different things. We hear hurricane watch, we hear hurricane warnings. Can you tell our viewers the difference between a hurricane watch and a hurricane warning and what that means to them?
Yeah, absolutely. A hurricane watch means that hurricane conditions are possible within 48 hours somewhere in the area under the watch. So there's still a little bit of time, but that window of time is closing pretty quickly. So normally when we get to the watch part, when we get to the watch phase, I should say, that's when the community actions really start to ramp up. I mean, they're already beginning well before the watch is issued, but definitely once the watch is issued, that's when we need to be putting our hurricane plan into place. We can't really wait much longer. The warning then means that hurricane conditions, for example, if it's for a hurricane warning means hurricane conditions are expected within 36 hours. Somewhere in that warning area. So we're shortening the amount of time, and we're increasing the certainty or the likelihood that some part of that warning area will receive hurricane conditions. So that's really what our community actions should be tied to, right? You know, us as residents, as businesses, using those watches and warnings in conjunction with information coming from the city, of course, as far as when the actions need to be taken.
And earlier in your introduction, so you spoke about La Nina, and to us, that sounds so scary. To you, not sure if it is that scary, but could you explain to us what that phenomenon means and what it looks like?
Yeah, well, these are cyclical patterns of sea surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. So these are patterns that have been observed for many, many years. And actually, most people have heard of the El Nino pattern. So we call it El Nino for the warm water phase of that pattern, and the La Nina is the opposite. It's the cold water phase of that pattern. But we're looking at temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. But we've also noted over the years that those changes in sea surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean influence weather patterns worldwide. So there's actually a connection between the ocean and the atmosphere, which makes sense. And one of the patterns that we've noticed is that when we have the La Nina pattern or the cold water pattern, that actually it leads to other meteorological conditions that make those overall conditions more conducive for hurricanes to form in the Atlantic Ocean. So all of our weather patterns and weather systems are really intertwined and connected worldwide. So what I said before was that there is, based on some of the models that we look at, about a 40 to 50% chance that La Nina pattern could be in place or could come into play later this hurricane season. So, nothing to necessarily be extremely concerned about at this moment. It's just something that we're keeping an eye on and something that would help to further enhance that outlook that we mentioned earlier of an above normal season.
Awesome. Thank you, sir, for that valuable information. We're going to go to Chief Palmer for our next question. Chief Palmer, you mentioned earlier, sir, about the shelters that are within the city of Miramar. And now we know from seeing, people walking out and about, a lot of people have pets that they have to take into consideration in an emergency. Can you talk about pet shelters? Do we have pet shelters in the city of Miramar? Where are they? And what do I need to take with me if I'm taking my pet to a shelter?
That's a good question, because that's one that many residents actually are looking for is what to do with their pets. The one thing within our city, Everglades High School is actually a pet shelter for our area. Just remember, those 8 shelters are not just for the residents of Miramar; they're for the area. So that's one thing to remember. And the one thing that you have to do if you have a pet and you're going to be using the shelters, you have to make sure that you contact the Humane Society of Broward County, which their phone number is 954-989-3977, extension 7, and make sure that you advise them, what you need, what you have, and then they'll be able to make sure you get on a list, because you have to sign up in order to participate in a shelter. So for us, we do have one within our city, but you have to make sure that you sign up with the Humane Society. And one of the other things too with signing up, this is something that you have to do every year. It's not because you sign up once, it's good forever. So just make sure you remember that in case you do it for every year, to make sure that you are signing up if you do need that support. But yes, we do have one here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Mayor Messam, I'm going to go to you with the next question, sir. After a hurricane, the city always provides resources to our residents. And I just wanted to go through, sir, with our viewers, what can they look forward to from the city in terms of resources to prepare for the storm or after the storm?
Yes, another great question. The City of Miramar, we customarily provide sandbags to our residents. Many residents who may live in areas that may have been susceptible to street floodings, even though the city has invested tens of millions of dollars in our infrastructure. So many communities are no longer experiencing that. But we do have multiple locations, days leading up to the storm. We provide sandbags. We like to make it kind of a community affair. We have volunteers, we have city employees, and you'll see even myself and my colleagues are out there, and we're bagging sandbags for our residents. It's a lot of work, but we're doing it coming together as a community. It's important, however, that how residents can help our Public Works Department is when it's safe, before the extreme winds approach our community, when we're in the path of the storm, go out in front of your yard, look in the street, check your catch basins to make sure there aren't any palm fronds or any debris or anything that may be blocking water from being able to properly drain through the catch basins, because they provide a key access point for water runoff to go inside of our lakes, into our canals, to reduce the possibility of flooding. After the storm, the City of Miramar, we partner with many community organizations in terms of if they were out of power, there's availability for meals. And so if you sign up for our alert notification system that Sean will provide later, you will be able to get notification. Like right now during COVID-19, on every Thursday, tomorrow, we partner with Feeding South Florida. We've been providing meals to thousands of families since the outbreak of coronavirus. So there's a lot of resources that are available. That's why it's so important for you to sign up for our alert system and sign up to receive emails from the city so that you can know what these resources are.
Thank you so much, sir. And for the information that we have, that we post for the City of Miramar, Messam, can you talk to our viewers as to whether it's only available in English, or do we have English, Spanish, Creole, those kinds of things?
Yes, the City of Miramar, because of our diversity, we have a significant population that is English speaking, Spanish speaking, Creole speaking, and we make sure that we are producing materials and publications and notifications in multilingual format. So you can be assured that you will get it in English, in Espanol, and Creole, so that our community can be well versed and communicated to in the language that they speak.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Moyeda, we're going to go to you for the next question, sir. While we're doing what we're doing and getting ready for the hurricane and making sure we buy supplies, it is important for us to have correct, up-to-date information about the hurricane. So can you tell our viewers what is the best place to find the most up-to-date hurricane information?
Yeah, weather.gov is the National Weather Service website. And in fact, if you go to weather.gov/Miami, that'll take you straight to the National Weather Service Miami, South Florida forecast office, where we provide weather information every single day, and especially when there's storms threatening or forecast to affect South Florida, we provide additional information. That, for example, the forecast track, the cone, wind speed probabilities for specific locations, what our threat and impacts are could potentially be, updated with each forecast. So again, weather.gov/Miami. Also, the National Hurricane Center's website is hurricanes.gov.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to go to Chief Palmer for our next question. Chief, you spoke earlier about what people should take with them, face masks, understanding that they may not be able to go to a grocery store afterwards or a pharmacy or something to get supplies. Could you just go through again a list of what you would recommend that individuals take with them to a shelter, or what they need to put in their homes as a disaster supply in preparation for a hurricane?
That's another good question, because the one thing you want to remember is that we're not always going to be able to have supplies when you get there. So we really need you guys to prepare and be ready for that when you prepare for these events. Like, this as a minimum, you need 1 gallon of water per person per day. And it's at least 3-day supplies, but they're even recommending, I said, longer now, especially during the COVID. At least a 7-day supply of non-perishable foods, 2-week supply of medications, manual can opener, for example, batteries, a battery-powered radio, flashlight with batteries, first aid kit, cash. Make sure you fill your vehicles with gas. Supplies for infants like diapers for a minimum of 3 to 5 days. Supplies for seniors like the medications, and make sure you're supplying for at least 2 weeks for them, because you don't know if you're going to be able to get to what they need. If you have their pets, make sure you have their food and also their supplies. And of course, now with the COVID, make sure that you're considering your PPE supplies, besides your masks, your gloves, your sanitary stuff. It's going to be really, really important, because you're going to have the challenge of just a hurricane. Now you're going to have the challenge of also individuals that are going to be all around, and everyone's going to be really panicking. So just to keep you as safe as you can. But those are the things that, at a minimum, that we should really be considering to set up your kits for some kind of a disaster like this.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm going to ask this next question to you, because while you're reporting on the weather, and I know we have reporters out and about, they're talking to people, they're seeing the experience, what they're having in their local communities. Is there anything that you can tell individuals to prepare for based on what you've seen out in the community over the years?
To basically just be weather aware and start prepping from now. The season is quiet. During a storm, we will definitely go out there and paint the picture of what's going on. We don't want you out there. Either we want you in your safe place or out of your home, or wherever your safe place is, even if you have to travel. But we are here to provide the information that you need. We're exposed to the elements, and we don't want to put anyone in harm's way. We just want everyone to be weather aware and informed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And let me ask you, while you're giving the information out to individuals, I know you do it on TV, but is there any kind of social media that they can connect with the news, or anybody who may not be able to, do you cater for people who are deaf or blind, and any of those resources?
Well, we definitely have the Tropic Watch hotline. We're updating it constantly, so viewers can actually phone in and get information in that way. They can call the assignment desk as well, and connect to the weather office and speak to one of us. We're fully staffed. So while Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrell is on the air, I'll be doing radio interviews. We'll have someone updating the weather graphics, or we'll have somebody strictly answering emails, social media questions. We're definitely out there to serve you and provide the information necessary in all sorts of different ways.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And you know, while we talk about preparing, Chief Palmer, I'll go to you for this one. We always have to consider the vulnerable population. Yes. And I need to talk to our viewers about, if I am not able to relocate, if I'm not able to go move out of town and I have to shelter in place, can you talk about the vulnerable population and what they can do in order to prepare for a storm?
Yes, there's actually two things that we would recommend. Our city has its own registry, and also Broward County has a registry. For the city, you would just need to sign up ahead of time so that we know, as well as Broward County. And Broward County, you can actually register with them by calling 311 in Broward, or by calling 954-831-4000. And what that's going to do is, if you have to shelter in place, means you have to stay in your house. The county will actually reach out to you before and after a storm once it passes. And the city will also do the same thing. And the one thing nice that with the city is, as soon as we can get out to you, we're going to come out and check on you. So if we're not able to get in contact with you, or even the county can't get into contact with you, we'll actually organize and make sure that we get somebody out there to check on you and make sure that everything is okay. But that's another one of those registries that has to be done on a yearly basis. And you have to make sure that what your needs are actually expressed, because if there needs any special circumstances or any type of special equipment, for example, at least we'll know what it is prior to arrival in case we have to help with that type of scenario. So like I said, there is two. The city has one, and also the county has a registry that you should definitely sign up for.
And what kind of services can they expect, sir? Is there medication? Is there health related resources, or is this food if they need it? What kind of resources does this avenue provide?
But what it does is it actually lets us know what those needs are what you need, if there's anything special, but also lets us know that there's someone that we're going to have to probably look after a little bit, and just make sure that you're being attended to as this goes through. We will do everything we can to definitely supply what we can as this event turns, but we have staff members that are actually dedicated to that type of service that'll make sure that you're getting attended and you get those requirements that you're going to be needing, whether it be medication or food. Those are things that will have to be worked out, but we definitely have resources for that, even if we have to take you to the hospital, for example.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Mayor Messam, I want to ask, because usually during a hurricane, individuals may have bulk that they want to put out. They may have items that, maybe the next week was going to be their scheduled bulk day, and now they don't know what to do with those items. Can you talk to the viewers a little bit to give them some kind of a guidance as to what they do with those items?
Yes, this is a very important issue. Residents, they may put bulk items out, and the caution or the concern is putting out bulk materials within 48 hours, 24 hours of the expected arrival of a storm. If it's not collected, those bulk items become projectiles and can be very hazardous to the surrounding community. So the city's Public Works Department communicates the bulk pickup days. If there's any special collections that we can do prior to the storm coming, we try to do that as best as we can. Now is the time to begin to trim your trees. Perhaps maybe around 7 a.m. where it's not as hot, but Vivian and Robert can tell you what to expect on the weather front. But do it either in the evening or early in the morning so that you're not scorched out there during these summer months or summer days, summer hours. But you want to go ahead and begin to do those preparation items now. That's why we're communicating this now. Also, check your shutters. Make sure you have your wing nuts. Make sure that your latches on your shutters are functional, so that when it's time to use them, you're not scrambling trying to get missing parts or additional nuts to secure your shutters. Now, after the storm has passed, we have a contract with debris haulers that come in to collect all of the debris that is caused by the wind event. So we prepare in advance for these items. One of the things that many of the residents may not know is that we have our utilities and public works staff on standby. When the storm passed, like the last storm that we just had, it passed overnight. So everyone was wondering what damage was collected. We had our staff already out doing the first push, getting debris off of the streets because we had trees that fell in the roads. So we used all of our heavy equipment to push trees that may have fallen down, blocking roadways where you cannot traverse through our community. And these are the things that our staff prepares for. These are the resources that we have in place. But I really want to caution our community, please do not just watch this great information and don't take action, because you can do your part to ensure that a life is saved, and make sure that no one is injured, and that our community can be as resilient as possible. So when these storms pass, that it's not really impacting our community as it definitely will others.
Thank you so much, Mayor Messam. And this question I'll pose to you also. Someone wanted to know, are there any measures in place to assist residents with power outages? And the last hurricane, I think we were out of power for so long, and neighbors became very good friends with whoever had a grill. So could you talk a little bit about that, sir?
Well, yeah. So obviously, in a perfect world, the city would have a warehouse full of generators, solar panels, just ready to deploy to anyone that needs it with power outages. But one thing I will say is that the city, we have a really good relationship with FPL. FPL has really improved their infrastructure, has made it more resilient to deal with these storms. And we, in our last storm, I remember being able to project how many days it will be before neighborhoods will come back on the grid. And that was very informative. We had residents call in to say we actually reached out. And that's the communication between the city and FPL. Even though they can see on their network where power outages are, but they really rely on the city to communicate to our residents so that we can pinpoint trouble spots. Because where limbs may have fallen on power lines, as you see, a lot of this infrastructure is now underground, which really helps in these situations where vegetation and trees don't knock out areas of communities for the power. But we continue to make sure that we work with our residents to be as prepared as possible. You want to weatherize your home. You want to make it, when you can repair your roofs. If you can afford to get perhaps impact windows, changing out old doors. You just want to make your house as strong as possible to be able to endure the brunt, of these storms. Most building materials now must have a 90-day notice of appropriateness to be able to withstand high velocity debris impacts and pressure impacts if you're talking about doors and windows for structures. So you want to make sure that you are as protected as possible. But that's a great question. And we'll continue to look to see perhaps how we can definitely identify our most vulnerable individuals who definitely need power, so we can work with the community. If someone may need a generator, we can get them to those resources, like our seniors and our shut-ins and those individuals that really rely on power to energize their medical equipment that helps keep them alive.
Thank you so much, Mayor Messam. Mr. Moyeda, we're going to ask you this next question, sir. Could you talk to our viewers if someone lives by the ocean or is in a coastal community and is not able to evacuate during COVID-19? Can you just talk a little bit about what that scenario might look like from a National Weather Service perspective?
You mean in reference to storm surge?
In reference to storm surge and those types of things.
Right. Well, the storm surge areas, and Vivian mentioned it in one of her slides, are essentially east of US 1. So in Broward County, the two zones are east of US 1. So those are the areas that, based on storm surge models, have shown to be the ones that are most vulnerable to storm surge. So when we have an actual storm out there or a storm threatening our area, we'll take the conditions of that actual storm and its forecast path and intensity, and then we'll run that same storm surge models to give us an idea of what areas are most prone to getting life-threatening surge from that particular event. So, what we always say is, as far as evacuations are concerned, as far as decisions that you have to make, always follow the advice of local officials. Meteorologists do not issue the evacuation orders. Those are actually issued by county officials working in conjunction, or at least getting information from the National Weather Service, and then making those key decisions. And so certainly, again, to emphasize the point, the decision that you make, it has to be, an informed decision and following the advice of city and county officials.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And as we go down the list, I'm just going to go through our list of panelists this afternoon, and just to see if you have any comments. But before we do that, Mayor Messam, I would like you to talk, sir, a little bit about any comments to the viewers about tree trimmings, or, just be patient with the process of garbage collection after a storm. Could you talk a little bit about that, sir?
About after the storm?
About after the storm, being patient with garbage taken.
Oh, yes.
What should people do about tree trimmings before a hurricane if one is looming?
Yeah, so we try to maintain as best as possible our regular garbage collection. When it is altered, we communicate that, because the number one priority is to clear our streets of the debris. And as we all know, the year, I don't think it was last year, but maybe the season before, we had an unprecedented situation where storms hit Florida, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana. And what happened was you had all your debris collection contractors were strained. They were stretched between all of these states who were all under a state of emergency. And that caused a supply-demand issue where the demand was so high. You had some communities that literally had to wait over a month to get their debris collected. The City of Miramar, we didn't endure those type of conditions because we really try to prepare for the worst scenarios. Our number one priority is collecting the debris. And what we did was we knew that it would be some delay in getting this debris out of our city. So what we did was we collected the debris and stockpiled it at Regional Park so that we can clear out our community. And we're blessed to have that type of real estate and available space to be able to do that on behalf of our residents. It's very important, though, is that if you trim your yards now, trim your trees now, so that the weaker and older branches can be removed off your tree. The younger branches tend to be more resilient and are not broken down, that it will be less debris that is on the ground. It will really help the community. So if everyone just literally did their part. And the last thing I'll say about that is, let's look out for one another. Let's be neighborly. We may have neighbors who may be seniors, may not be in a position to trim their own tree, may not have a lawn service that can do it, or maybe may have economic challenges where they cannot contract someone to do it. So let's check on our neighbors. Let's make sure that if everyone needs a hand, that the spirit of Miramar has always risen to the occasion during these times. And I just love the spirit of our residents who always come together. I'll conclude with this. During the last storm, our general employees, our union, these are our frontline workers that work in our utilities departments, our public works department, and they on their own volunteer to go to the community and help out seniors and other residents to help clear out their yards during the storm. And that was just such a wonderful thing to see. And we're truly blessed to have great city staff that not only work for the city, but they're true public servants that really care about the residents that we serve.
Thank you, sir. And if you would just dovetail off of that a little bit and talk about, after a storm, there's a lot of debris to be picked up. But also, one of the concerns is the flooding and the speed with which one area may clear out more than another. But we know that the City of Miramar has done a considerable amount of work and putting some money in infrastructure improvements in historic Miramar and other areas. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because one of our viewers, their question was surrounding flooding and clearing out after the storm?
Oh, yes. And in the city, we have invested over $100 million in infrastructure projects where we've gone in and put in and increased the stormwater drainage capacity, especially in historic Miramar. We're in phase 3 right now. And many of our residents have endured the dust and the disruption to their neighborhoods because of all of this infrastructure work. But all of that pain is going to pay off, especially when we have our next storm event. So we are in the neighborhood that's just east of the Florida Turnpike and just south of Miramar Parkway, and we'll soon, currently right now, doing the engineering studies for the neighborhood just west of the Turnpike and south of and north of the Miramar Parkway for that infrastructure improvement. So we definitely recognize that some of our historic communities that had the original infrastructure still in place has been degraded over the years, and we're just happy to know that we've been able to complete 3 zones, or wrapping up zone 3, and that we have much more of our community with up-to-date and new infrastructure that can be able to handle, I would say, at least a lot more water than we've been able to handle in the past.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. And we're going to go through our list of panelists and just ask for any final comments you may have for our viewers this afternoon. Mr. Moyeda, we're going to start with you, sir. Just anything you want to tell our viewers before we sign off this afternoon to make sure that they're looking out for during this hurricane season.
Yeah, well, thank you very much once again for having me. The one thing that I really would like people to know, and may not be totally understood, is that National Weather Service, all these folks, we have all the panelists, right? Everyone that's here today, we all work together, especially when a storm is threatening, but also really throughout the year. We have workshops, we have meetings in which we talk about ways to better communicate weather information, ways in which we can obtain or share information. So we work very closely with with the city of Miramar, with all of our cities in South Florida and the counties as well, and also with our media, with Vivian and WSVN and all of the other stations. So I think people need to understand that we don't work in vacuums. We work together, we collaborate, and we share information so that we have so that the information that's out there is consistent. We're speaking the same message, and people can take the right actions based on that information. So I'll just finish off with this. We talked about being informed, right? But so it's really two parts that are critical to being ready for hurricane season. So be prepared, and we've heard lots of great information on that. But also be informed. Stay up to date with those weather forecasts. During quiet periods like this, maybe you don't have to check every single day as far as tropical activity is concerned. But then once we start getting closer to the peak of hurricane season, that's when we really need to be tuning in. So we want to make sure that we're getting information from our official sources, right? The media, of course, the National Weather Service, the City of Miramar, to make sure that we stay informed throughout the season. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moyeda. Thank you so much, sir. And thanks for everything that you do before, during, and after a hurricane, and all during the hurricane season. Thank you so much. We're going to go now to Ms. Gonzalez for any final comments, anything that we may not have touched on this evening that you think the viewers need to know and that you need to let our community know. Go ahead right now.
Robert couldn't have said it any better. Staying informed and being prepared is the key. We're all in it together as a community. So just be alert and stay tuned. Log in online to hurricanes.gov or to weather.gov and check your local forecast, or even tune in maybe to Channel 7 or through social media, whichever way you prefer to get your information. Being informed, being prepared is the key, and we're here to weather it together. But thank you so much for having me. Wonderful opportunity. And again, we're here to serve you, the public.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks again. And we're going to go now to Chief Robert Palmer, Chief Palmer, from an emergency management standpoint, we know you deal a lot with the community. Anything that you want them to know before a hurricane strikes the season?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having me today. The one thing that I do want to say is I want to thank Robert Moyela and Vivian Gonzalez for all the work that they do and the information that our agency supply. For us, that's crucial. We prepare, almost a week in advance as we watch these hurricanes come near to us or even coming at us. So all that information, everybody's constantly watching. We're doing the same thing because our plan is actually a week out. So we actually start preparing. We start preparing our buildings. We start preparing staff, and all that's all based on that information that everybody's hanging off of. So we watch them very, very closely. And I know it's a very hard thing to predict, but we all do our best to make sure we're following, make sure we're keeping in touch with what's happening, and make sure we're also being part of that information that we're putting out, that we all stay consistent. Because the last thing you want is a panic when everybody else is just wondering what's going to happen next. And really the big thing with this season is going to be is that COVID-19 is really going to be the issue for a lot of us. Even I know I spoke mostly about shelters, but what's going to happen with the shelters is if they allow 100 people, now it's only going to be allowing maybe 50 people. So it's going to cut down on the amount of actually residents that we can house in a safe environment. So these are challenges that we're going to be faced this season that we're going to have to work through. But the one thing that I can say, we do have a plan. The county has a plan. We've been working with them hand in hand. And if we have to go towards a situation, we are ready as far as we can be to make sure everybody here is safe. And obviously, that's our number one goal. And that's it. Like I said, be out there, be safe, and just prepare all you can for this hurricane season. Thank you very much.
Very good, sir. Thank you so much, Chief Palmer. And now we're going to go to Mayor Messam. Mayor Messam, could you go ahead, sir, with your comments for our viewers this afternoon?
I'm just so excited and ecstatic about today's segment of Conversations with Mayor Messam, because this information is so important. And I would like to thank Robert and Vivian for joining us today, as well as Chief Palmer. Chief Palmer, he's a resident co-host at this moment because he's been so involved with all of our topics because they've been so important. But it's just to know that we have not just great professionals, in our community that works hard and tirelessly to provide us the information to help cities like Miramar to keep our residents prepared and safe. And we can't thank you enough for all that you do and your professionalism that you bring to the table. And Vivian, we wake up with you every morning, and we wish that you can forecast a 60-degree morning tomorrow for our morning runs. We really appreciate that if you could deliver that. So, but I do want to say a couple of words on an important point that Chief Palmer just raised. This year, more than any year, is the year where we need to pre-plan and prepare for a hurricane because of COVID-19. We don't know how long COVID-19 is going to stretch out, but what we do know is that COVID-19 will be alive and well during this year's hurricane season. It is going to add a lot of challenges as it relates to our ability to get resources, supplies, and to be able to interact with one another. So with that in mind, don't underestimate the importance of this information. Take heed to this information. Go on our city's website, download your hurricane preparedness kit. It has a valuable amount of information to help you and your families to be prepared. As the city of Miramar, you can rest assured that our fiscal prudence that we have set aside emergency funds to be able to respond, to prepare for these weather events so that we can ensure that our community is safe and that we can rebound after a storm if we should be in the line of fire of one of these hurricanes. So you can know that your local officials are prepared with our emergency management plan and a state-of-the-art emergency operating center built just to keep our community safe. So thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in this week. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks where we'll talk about voting, the importance of being registered to vote. It's going to be a very active voting season. The city does not advocate or endorse or tell you who to vote for. We just want to make sure that you are prepared. And COVID-19 will have an impact on our voting season as well. So we want to ensure that we prepare you to be able to know where to get registered if you want to vote by mail, how to go about that process. And we'll talk about all those things on our next segment. So thanks again, Robert and Vivian, for joining us. Thanks again, Chief. And it's all yours, Sean. Take us away.
Thank you so much, Mayor Messam, and thank you again to our panelists. But most of all, thank you to our viewers for tuning in today. Remember to follow us on social media at City of Miramar. Also, please sign up for emergency text alerts. You can do so at 888-777. Just text Alert Miramar to 888-777 so that we can send you all of the important information. In the event of an emergency, we do send out text messages and you can be on that list. Again, text Alert Miramar to 888-777. You can also download our hurricane preparedness guide at our website, like Mayor Messam said earlier on, to provide you with the most up-to-date information on all of the things that were spoken here this afternoon to give you those helpful tips at a glance. It is helpful for you to know before, during, and after a hurricane. Again, on behalf of our mayor, thank you so much for joining Conversations with Mayor Messam. Thank you and stay safe.